Hey guys, it's Owen from Wrestling Inc. back with another wrestling news roundup. Without any further ado, let's get into today's biggest stories in the world of professional wrestling. New title coming to AEW, tournament to determine first champion begins. A new title is coming to All Elite Wrestling, starting at New Japan Pro Wrestling AEW Forbidden Door. On last night's episode of Dynamite, it was announced that the All Atlantic Championship is the newest title on the way for the AEW roster to chase. The bout itself, quotes, represents all of the AEW fans watching around the world in over 130 countries, end quote, and international talent is specifically booked for the tournament to determine the first ever All Atlantic champion. The previously announced match of Buddy Matthews vs. Pac ended up being the very first match of the tournament, with the final moment seeing Pac hit his signature Black Arrow for the pinfall. Pac would now advance to the second round against either Malachi Black or Penta Oscuro, whoever wins their first round match. The remaining first round matches are Ethan Page vs. Miro, Penta Oscuro vs. Malachi Black, and the New Japan Pro Wrestling bracket with the participants yet to be announced. As noted, the final two participants will go on to AEW New Japan's Forbidden Door event on June 26 to determine the inaugural All-Atlantic champion. The main event of that night will see a match to determine the interim AEW World Champion that will hold the belt until an injured CM Punk makes his return to AEW. At that time, it's expected interim AEW champion will go against CM Punk in a match to establish who's the undisputed AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Top New Japan Pro Wrestling star brings his stable to invade AEW Dynamite. Will Ospreay has arrived in All Elite Wrestling. During last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, Trent Beretta of Roppongi Vice came down to the ring and expressed his disappointment in how the team's Ring of Honor Tag Team title match against FTR turned out on the May 25 Dynamite. That night, the tag match looked to be nearing its conclusion as Trent and Rocky Romero hit a strong zero on Dax Harwood, but suddenly Jeff Cobb and Great O'Khan from New Japan Pro Wrestling's United Empire interfered and caused a disqualification. Trent continued expressing his disappointment and desire for a rematch when FTR came down to the ring. They explained how it isn't their fault the match turned out the way it did, so if he's mad at anyone, it should be United Empire. He even went as far as calling the tag team Will Ospreay's Bitch Boys, which seemed to be just enough to get the group's attention. That is when the United Empire music hit and their leader Will Ospreay emerged from the back to get the attention of the men in the ring. As FTR and Trent were distracted, Aussie Open and Aaron Henare stormed the ring and attacked them from behind. Ospreay has been wrestling since 2012 in the United Kingdom, making appearances with promotions like Rev Pro and Progress Wrestling. Ospreay was specifically recommended by AJ Styles to sign with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which led to him joining the junior heavyweight division and becoming a three-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion over time. He also won the Best of the Super Juniors in both 2016 and 2019. He would eventually transition into the heavyweight division, where he achieved the feat of winning the 2021 New Japan Cup. This looks to be leading to some kind of big tag team bout at Forbidden Door, but they have yet to announce an official match. Backstage news on plans for Hangman Page at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door. Despite calling out Okada on AEW Dynamite this week, Hangman Page is not expected to face him in singles action at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door, according to Dave Meltzer on the latest edition of Wrestling Observer Radio. After defeating David Finlay on Wednesday night, Page took to the microphone to address the fact he lost the AEW World Championship, claiming it doesn't appear he will be getting a rematch anytime soon. Instead, he called out Okada for an IWGP Heavyweight Championship match at the upcoming cross-promoted pay-per-view this month. Meltzer had previously reported that the two men were scheduled to go one-on-one at the pay-per-view, but that is something he then corrected, stating that the lineup he had seen was incorrect and was being kept top secret. It is believed that this was a fake lineup that he saw originally, and instead Meltzer was told it would not be a singles match with the two. This opens up a couple of different possibilities, as Okada could end up dropping the title this weekend at the New Japan Dominion show when he faces Jay White, who has appeared in AEW previously. Adam Cole also made it clear he would like to face Okada at AEW New Japan Forbidden Door, as he told Page on AEW Dynamite that he deserves that shot, but it remains to be seen the exact match which will end up being booked for the show. So far, no matches are officially confirmed for the pay-per-view, which takes place on Sunday, June 26 from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, but Jon Moxley did confirm his place in the main event last night on AEW Dynamite. First competitor in AEW interim world title match determined. Jon Moxley is one step closer to becoming the interim AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Last night's main event of Dynamite saw Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly square off in a stiff brawl against one another. After a bulldog choke, several knees to a downed O'Reilly, a charging knee akin to his mentor William Regal, and a signature Death Rider brainbuster, Mox secured the 1-2-3. He now advances to Forbidden Door on June 26 to compete for the interim AEW World Heavyweight Championship against a competitor yet to be determined. It was announced last Friday that the AEW World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk was suffering from a foot injury, putting him on the shelf for the foreseeable future. While he is absent, an interim AEW World Champion will be determined by having Moxley face a top New Japan Pro Wrestling star, whether that be New Japan Pro Wrestling's Hiroshi Tanahashi or Hiroki Goto. Mox's opponent will be set in stone after New Japan Dominion on June 12 when the two men wrestle. MJF not mentioned at all on AEW Dynamite. MJF's pipe bomb from last week was not referenced at all on Wednesday's live telecast of Dynamite on TBS. While the announcers did not mention MJF at any point during the 2-hour show, even Wardlow didn't make any references to his former boss turned foe in an interview segment with Tony Schiavone. Wardlow scored the biggest victory of his career last Sunday at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, where he defeated MJF. However, Schiavone didn't bring up the match and only focused on Wardlow's decision to keep out of the interim World Championship Eliminator Series Battle Royale. As noted, Kyle O'Reilly won the Battle Royale but lost later in the night to Jon Moxley, who qualified for the interim AEW World Championship match at the June 26 Forbidden Door pay-per-view. MJF not being mentioned on Wednesday's show shouldn't come as a surprise. Following his promo last week, AEW removed all traces of the Salt of the Year from its website and merchandise store, not to mention unfollowed MJF on Twitter. Furthermore, AEW's social media accounts and YouTube channel haven't posted any MJF-related content for more than a week. As reported previously, MJF was not present at AEW's after-party with Warner Bros. Discovery executives last week and has since not traveled with the company, opting to remain in Los Angeles instead. The report from Fightful Select further noted that MJF is pursuing Hollywood interests and may have already secured a role as a voiceover artist for an upcoming animated film. Sources in AEW also told Fightful that MJF has several meetings lined up in Los Angeles later this week. On a related note, AEW President Tony Khan once again declined to comment on the controversy surrounding MJF during his appearance on Busted Open Radio on Wednesday. Prior to the live telecast of AEW Rampage this past Friday night, Khan stepped out to hype up the crowd at the Toyota Center in Ontario, California, but was instead greeted with loud MJF chants. He stopped his promo and appeared to smile as the chants grew louder. So what are your thoughts on today's Wrestling News Roundup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Inc. and I'll speak with you again very, very soon.